Well, the reason I did this quite some time ago was because I watched model railroaders take high pressure cars and run them out there with oil in them and gas and things like that, which needed cars, low pressure cars with vents on them. And I thought, okay, maybe I ought to learn a little bit about high pressure cars, and I will put something together on low pressure cars. But anyway, tonight I have a few slides on high pressure. And anybody who has something about this, please tell me. Just stay online, and whenever we reach someplace that you want to comment, why, please do. So there's some placards that notice that the Canadians are a little different than we are, I guess. And that's for anhydrous ammonia, which would be fertilizer. And then, of course, on the right, we've got one for petroleum. So that's what it looks like inside the high pressure vent, or it isn't a vent, high pressure top. And anyway, the next, I'm not going to read all of these things because if you're interested in it, you can watch it on YouTube in the next couple of days, and then you can take your time going through them. So on the next one, there are the hoses that come out of the hatch. There's 4 of them. There's one on each side and one there. So that's what that's covering. Here's another picture of one that's a little easier to see. So that's a drawing of the way that they're hooked up. So they have 3 hoses that hook in, and then of course they have the the valves up at the top to turn them on. There's a little closer picture of it. A lot of this stuff, well, in fact, all of it was, there's a little bit added, but was in the Chicago Northwestern modeler that I made years ago. This drawing, why Richard Green made, and he is on here. You remember that, Richard?
Yeah, that's a couple years ago, 3 or 4.
But you notice how they have a recovery line and the pump and the 4-way valve that does it. And there's, now they only showed 2 pipes going into the car, which that's kind of interesting. I just now realized that it only shows 2 hoses. So now I have a question, where's the 3rd one? And what does it do?
That earlier drawing you had 2 of them tied together.
Well, maybe that's the case. Let's go back to this one.
Yeah, right there. The liquid lines there says it's either both tied.
Okay. That's what the deal is. And there's only actually 2 pipes going into the storage tank, but there's 2 pipes that go in to take the fuel out of the tank car.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The eradication valves over here, you can see those 2. Okay. Well, I learned something right then.
Am I wrong? But isn't one of the hoses just forcing air into the car? The compressor forcing the liquid out the other 2 hoses.
Yeah, that's what this picture right here is showing.
Right.
Is see, there's little arrows up there with the vapor line going in up at the top. I realize they're small, but push air in, that'll push the liquid line, and it'll push the liquid out.
Right.
And this one is actually it came off the internet. That's a pretty good picture of guys up there on top of the car. The type of cars are the DOT 112, 114, and the 105. Rich Mahoney is not on here tonight. He would be able to tell us all kinds of stuff about this stuff, because if you know Rich, you know that he is a big on hazardous material and tank cars and things like that. So we'll get into some of the tank cars. Lloyd Kaiser furnished me a lot of pictures. This is a pretty old one. And there's the pipes going into the ground. They all have a bonnet, always the same. They don't always have this walkway around it. Some do, some don't. The other thing that I'm not covering in this is that some of them are insulated and some of them are not insulated. I didn't cover that. So here is a pictures from Mark showing I'm making a guess that the yellow pipe is the pushing air in, and the red pipe is the pulling the product out. And here are here's where they go down into the ground. This would be the center post holding it together. And I don't show where the red and yellow pipe go down into the ground on it. Big heavy springs there if you want to model something like this. I'm going to put an LP tank on the layout one of these days. I just finishing the small LP tank, so I'm going to have to build one of these things. So I'm glad I got some pictures of it. Here's one with LP gas. I picked these pictures out because they're more of the steam era time that we model. There are some new ones toward the end. That one's quite unusual. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody talk about transporting butane. And green's fuel gas. I just assume when they're talking about fuel gas, is talking about LP, even though they call it fuel gas. Notice the bonnet up here always looks the same, no matter what type of platform around it. So anyway, there's a lot of reading here. So the early ones were 10 to 12,000 gallons in 1960. Various builders increased them to 30 and 34,000 gallon capacity, with a maximum capacity of LPG tank cars were set at 34,500 in 1970. And driving. Anyway, I don't know if any of you know Dan Holbrook.
Yeah.
He very knowledgeable and everything. And he is the one who passed this on to me. So there's a Shell car. Shell apparently also was into the anhydrous ammonia part business. Of course, up here we have a lot of fertilizer places. And so we see these cars all the time, except they're a lot bigger than that. Those are all from years ago. There was one thing that I missed back here. If you'll allow me to run back. This one right here, the placards are empty, which indicates a clean, empty car. If there's anything in the car at all, any kind of residue in there, they cannot remove the placards.
Right.
And once a car is cleaned, they can remove the placards like this one is.
Yep.
And now jumping back where I was.
So do some of these cars have multiple uses or just single use?
Oh, they can be used for all kinds of things depending on how they're cleaned out. And before they, they don't want to mix anything.
Right.
My suspicion is that the cars probably stay in the same business all the time for their life.
Hmm,
There's a Phillips with LPG. And in this one, the placard is unreadable, indicates it is a full car or a car that is empty but still has residue. And that's, I guess I had another slide there. I talked about it. So then we'll get into the big stuff. Jeff Eggert, and some of you might know Jeff. He took a lot of pictures of these big cars. And this one having the green placard indicating it's anhydrous ammonia. I don't see these cars anymore with the red bar on them anymore, but I'm sure they're still out there. They just don't happen to go by where we're at on the CSX. They probably are more down into the Norfolk Southern area. There's one talks about non-pressurized, non-insulated car. We used to see the blue ones all the time. Apparently this one is owned by, owned in Mexico. And there was the largest tank car ever manufactured. As far as I know, those cars are no longer on the railroad, unless somebody knows different.
Ron, I think it's at the Railroad Museum in St. Louis. That's where Jeff probably photographed it.
Could be. Let me go back up and see. Yeah, it doesn't really look like that's in a railroad yard, does it?
It says it's at St. Louis,
Yeah.
Yep.
so
Read
probably,
the
probably at the
caption.
museum.
Just read the caption, right?
Not telling you what to do, but yeah.
Hey, Doug, I need all the help I can get.
Well, you'll see
Well,
it in a
some
week.
of that is beyond us.
You'll see it at the museum when you go there.
I will if we get
Mhm.
there. I plan to.
It looks like that one doesn't have the dome at the top. It looks like the valves are all maybe in that little hole in the middle of it.
You mean in this model?
No, the one before it,
Previous.
the
Oh,
giant.
that one? I don't know. It's just kind of hard to say because it's so
They're
big.
all at the bottom.
Well, I see this down here. You're thinking that that's where it is.
Maybe there, or maybe back at over the trucks. There's a
Look
bunch.
over the trucks though. They're your pumps.
Yep.
I think that's air brake stuff because that's
You
the
think
AB
so?
valve.
Okay.
That's the
I
AB
think so.
valve there.
Yep, you're right.
I would guess that if there is anything, it's here.
Mhm.
Well, if I get there, I'll take a look at it.
That's right.
All right. So I don't know if any of you listen to or not listen to, but watch Tony Thompson's blog or not, but
Oh, yes.
he
Yep.
has some very, very interesting stuff. And there's where you can find it. And he sent me a picture of one of his cars or allowed me to use it.
The white bonnet means that the car needs to be expedited back to its whoever is loading it. Not to be dilly-dallied or sent around the clock. That's supposed to go directly back to the shipper.
So that would be a back and forth type movement.
Yes, yeah, wherever it was sent to, it was supposed to be directly routed back to where it came
Yeah.
from.
So it kept
With
it,
the white donut, with the white bonnet.
So a captive service car.
Basically, yeah.
Did we see any other ones up here with white bonnets? I'm just curious.
Yeah, you did. I just didn't, I was on mute.
Well, let me, we're almost at the end of this anyway. Let me just look at some of the cars here. That's a black bonnet. That's black. This one is
That one's white,
that's
silver.
probably one. Now there is definitely one.
Yep. And that would be in a lease service, so would, whoever's leasing it would want it back at their facility.
Yeah. Again, the car's white, but we have to assume with a white bonnet, it's probably going back. There's another white
White.
bonnet
Yep,
for Phillips.
yep.
Looks like a white bonnet on that one. No. I think that car may be one of those insulated cars because that doesn't look like just steel to me. Looks like an outside insulation, but maybe I'm wrong. So that's actually, I'm done. But I thought we might have just a little bit of conversation on what would be in there and what wouldn't be in there. And I just picked these out of the slides that are up there. There's the LPG and the butane and the propane and the fuel gas. Fuel gas is probably LPG, anhydrous ammonia. And there's a lot of exotic gases that come in those kind of cars.
I know that Steve Heil has done presentations on Warren tank car line, and they hauled a lot of butane.
Steve, I wish I could have got him. I try to email him and I get him once in a while, and so most of the time I don't. But he is extremely knowledgeable in this, along with our guy up here in Michigan. So that is all I have on high pressure cars.
You mentioned that, some of them are insulated. What would they, what would they be insulated for?
Well, there's some of them have to stay cold in order to be gases.
Okay.
They don't want them heating in the sun. When they're sitting in the sun, you don't want a lot of these products, the gases, to be heating.
Don't some of them have to go heated also to keep their liquidity?
There are cars with that have heater coils running in the interior.
The heater coils a lot of times are found in the low pressure cars,
Right.
because of the real heavy material that they ship in them, heavy oils.
Do the railroads still ship acids in cars, like sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid?
Absolutely. They're doing it every day.
Are those high pressure or low pressure?
I can't answer that. Not off the top of my head.
I need to talk to my son-in-law who worked for American Cyanomed up in Kalamazoo, and he was in that business, and I should have talked to him about things like that.
Well, if you guys are really interested, I picked up, you can go to the hazardous material and you can order, they'll send you the book where it has all the codes. I have one here in front of me that I've got along the way. And it gives you all the codes on the placards, what they mean, what some of the placards look like. And you can look up all the shipments that are in the book. It's called an Emergency Response Guidebook. And it's not it's at the U.S. Department of Transportation, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I a lot of times I've kept one in my car so I can look at what the placards are, what they're carrying in the cars. But Ron, I was gonna say, in the book I have, there is no mention or one called fuel gas. There is none. There's fuel oil, but no fuel gas.
Don't you think that he really is talking about LPG, but they just use that as their own, they coined their own name for it. I mean, I'm guessing-
LPG, the liquefied petroleum, that's a 1075. That's kind of the first one you showed in your presentation. That placard is for liquefied petroleum gas.
But, you know, fuel gas, LPG could be for running a generator, and fuel gas could be the same thing. I'm just curious. I just think maybe they just coined that term and it's really LPG.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. It's just their marketing, or if it's early on, maybe they hadn't come to a consensus on what the stuff was called yet.
Well, that's possible. You know, I don't recall ever seeing a car like that. So it must have been a very small company. And I suppose that would be worth looking up in the guide to see how many they had.
Mm-hmm.
Ron, I found a picture of the 89-foot tank car, the other end of your picture, and it's got some sort of a hatch there. If you want to let me show the screen, I can show it to you.
Yeah, let's see. What do I got to do? Get off the screen?
Yeah, and sharing, and then I'll share.
Okay, all I got to do is figure out how to do it.
Touch the top of your screen with your mouse.
I think I just did that, but I think I'm still there.
I think.
You guys might be stuck with me and you don't know it. There you go. If in my computer, if you hit escape, it takes and does all kinds of things.
You've still got your home screen.
I think
You
I'm
need
off
to-
of it.
You have
You
to
need
quit
to stop sharing.
Yep, you need to stop sharing.
Yeah,
I'm
go
still
down to the
sharing.
bottom and you hit the arrow. It'll say stop share.
The green down there at the bottom. Do you have a green arrow at the bottom?
No, my green arrow. Okay, how about that one? Oh, that didn't do any good. Oh, I see it. It's red. It's red on mine.
Oh, well, you Apple people are,
It's
I
probably
suppose.
sharing it. It goes green when you don't.
All right, I'm off. It's all yours.
Okay. Okay, are you seeing the picture?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is the opposite end of the one that Ron was showing, and this is in St. Louis 2 years ago, so it's 17 years newer than his picture, and the paint's better, so they must have repainted it. And we've got this hatch on the end. On his picture, the end was smooth,
Sure.
so it was totally different. He had all the brake rigging on the other end, and this end is clear down here.
Yep.
So this has a hinge here, so something opens up, and then there's a port up there too.
Well,
You know,
because
plus
I'm
the
really
thing on the
interested.
side we were looking at earlier.
Yeah, I'm real interested in brakes. When I get there, I'm going to look real close because I would suspect that that was a dual brake situation.
I think Ron is correct on that. Those were the brakes on that end.
Yeah.
Ron, I'm sure you're right.
I would bet you there's brakes, the same kind of stuff as on this end too.
So was this
Yeah,
a
my recollection is this thing was like 89 feet long. And doesn't fit the whole load factor on a lot of railroads. And they stopped running these a number of years ago.
Was this a one of a kind car?
There were a dozen or so made, maybe more than that. If you get to this, the museum, there is a placard that describes this in great detail near the car somewhere.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ron.
And who's on next week?
We don't have anybody on next week yet, but we got a whole week to figure that out. So maybe Lester will get one of his together, or I'm working on a presentation on installing Keep Alives. I don't think it'll be ready next week though. Although I do have one successfully installed, so not that far.
What
And
kind
if
did you
anybody's
use?
looking for something to do in a couple of weeks, Huckleberry Railroad is having the Rail Fan Weekend on the 7th and 8th, and there will be model railroad displays. Marshall Stoll will be leading the Fremo setup up there. Unfortunately, I can't get there. I have a conflict, but that's up in Flint. I went up there this last Saturday with my son and rode their 3-foot narrow gauge, 1920 Baldwin 460. The historical village there also.
Where is it?
Huckleberry Railroad just outside of Flint. It's called Crossroads Village and Huckleberry Railroad. If you Google that, you'll get to it. It's a Genesee County park.
All right.
Hey, Doug, did you have a bad storm down there through there the other day?
We had some really heavy rain, but we didn't have any damage right in our area. North of us, about 30 miles, they had several tornadoes yesterday.
I saw JUL.
Yeah, JUL. Maxwell got like 6 inches of rain. Collins got 6 or 8 inches of rain. Lake City got hit pretty hard with a tornado. Allwine got hit with a tornado. So that band around, just around Highway 30 and north of 30 really got hit hard again across central part of the state. So
I will say you look like a man retired now.
Look at that library behind him.
Yeah.
He's going to read every single one now that he's retired, word for word.
Well, he should be able to come on with a Thursday night now. He's got all this time.
there, I zoom out and you can see more of the library.
Very nice. Well, yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Like they say, when you retire, you're busier than when you're working, but
Well, this
That's
afternoon,
absolutely true.
I finally finished up in the bathroom today, so I'm waiting on the tile guy to show up. So got down to the basement and started moving some boxes around this afternoon, and also got out to the railroad club that's here in town this afternoon to see what they're up to. So
Which railroad club, Doug?
the Warren County,
And where at?
it's at the fairgrounds here in Indianola. It's a Warren County club there. So they're not very large, about a dozen members, it appears. So
Is it equivalent to the one in Des Moines at the fairground?
much smaller.
Much smaller?
Yeah. They started out as a module group and they got their loop with the module set up, and then added an extension where they're trying to recreate the railroads of Indianola in the mid 50s. So, and it's there in the basement of the Historical Society Museums building. So whenever there's a public event going on like the county fair, they of course are open for visitors, that type of thing. So
Doug, when you start to rebuild your layout, that's a good Thursday night Zoom.
That's right.
yes, we could certainly do that. I'm getting close. I'm moving boxes so I can get up and hang the lights. And I need to get a lighter coating put on the floor. But like I said, now that I'm finished with my end of the bathroom stuff, and we're pretty much caught up on a lot of the other major projects in the house, I may be able to spend some time with the railroad.
Very good.
Yep. So I'll be looking for volunteers to show up bright and early. At 9 o'clock is bright and early for me. So
What is this?
Iowa in August, I guess, but I'll not get down there.
Retirees get up at 6:30, 6 to 6:30.
I do. Then I sit around in my pajamas and check email and read the paper. Or, we live in a town where they actually do in the morning. It's on our driveway instead of waiting for the post office to post it. So,
Hey, I live in Minneapolis, big city, and mine is delivered on my driveway. And when it rains, he puts it in the paper box.
yeah,
We
haven't
see,
lived in
not
a
just small town.
we haven't lived in a town that had morning delivery for years. It's always been mailed to us.
That's where our daily newsletter, that's what we call it. It got so small. It comes in the mail now. We don't get it on Monday anymore.
Yeah.
or Sunday, obviously, because it's no one mail on
Well,
Sunday.
most newspapers are pretty small anymore.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
They're getting smaller and smaller.
but yeah, anyway, that's my morning routine. I get going eventually.
On those more, on
Right.
those papers? Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, by
How do you-
9:30 this morning, I was running the vacuum in the bathroom, cleaning off the last of the mud, smoothing it off, and then I was doing the thin set on the floor to fill in all the little indentions and cracks from the flooring, the waterproof flooring I'd put in. So, and I put the drain in this morning, so now we're ready for tile. So,
Good enough.
yep.
Well, good luck with that. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and we'll see you
Yep.
next week.
All right.
Okay.
You.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.